Cairo, Seattle.
I'm Rachel Bell, and this is Your Last Meal, a show about famous people and the stories behind the foods they love most. Today on the program, actor and director Greta Gerwig. I had Greta on the show exactly 2 years ago after her film Lady Bird came out. Lady Bird received 41 major award nominations and 13 awards, and it was one of my favorite movies that came out that year. And now Greta has a new film. She directs the Louisa May Alcott classic, Little Women. So it seemed like the perfect time to refresh this episode. I don't know what you guys do for a living or if you do creative work, but have you ever listened or looked back on your old work? Ooh, it is painful. So we went back through the episode, we spruced her up, and we're calling it a new and improved rerun. And a lot can happen in 2 years. My other guest is Molly Yeh, creator of the cooking blog My Name is Yeh. And Molly is now the host of the Food Network show Girl Meets Farm, which is already in its 5th season. Molly grew up in Chicago with a Chinese-American dad and a Jewish mom, and now she lives on her husband's family's sugar beet farm in Grand Forks, North Dakota. So her food is often a whimsical mishmash of all of these cultures. She's done scallion pancake challah and Passover brisket hot dish topped with tater tots. But Molly also makes these gorgeous cakes. And that's why she's here today to talk about the early 90s classic, Funfetti. Molly is a tireless tester, and she tried 9 different types of sprinkles and 3 different cake recipes to perfect her Funfetti cake. So pour yourself a glass of milk. We'll get to Funfetti cake later in the episode. But right now, the last meal of Greta Gerwig.
My last meal would be, my favorite food is macaroni and cheese. And my best friend Sarah Whitman-Salkin makes a macaroni and cheese casserole that's perfect. She always makes a roux with flour. She's explained to me that that's the important part of it. And then she does something where it always develops this perfect crust on top. And then there's extra breadcrumbs on top of that. And she's made it for me many times for my birthday and stuff. And it's my absolute favorite thing to eat. So there would definitely be that. There's a ice cream company in New York called Ample Hills that makes, I don't even think it's ice cream, but they make it with, I want to say they make it with condensed milk. So technically it's called a custard, and it's the creamiest, richest, most effed up ice cream you've ever had. It's upsettingly good.
What's your favorite flavor?
There's a flavor called ooey gooey, which is, it's like yellow cake batter in ice cream. Yeah, so those things. I mean, there's probably more, but definitely those things.
I like that they're both kind of adult versions of childhood favorites. So it's like you have mac and cheese and then you have yellow cake batter, basically.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, maybe I could also include in my yellow cake batter thing Funfetti cake. You know, Funfetti that you buy from the grocery store, the Pillsbury Funfetti, they have a cream cheese icing, which is amazing. It's not like too sweet. That cake, too.
Is that something that you had birthdays growing up?
Yeah, we always had Funfetti. My mom would always make us Funfetti. It still feels like home. I'm actually weirdly not a huge sweets person, but that Funfetti cake is so specific. It's like a Proustian Madeleine for me.
And yeah, I've seen now people are trying to make homemade versions online, but it's really hard with the sprinkles.
Homemade versions of Funfetti?
Yeah.
That's just, you got to get the box. You can't make it healthy. I mean, you couldn't possibly get all those colors.
You can, but it's hard.
Really?
Yeah.
I have not gone down the rabbit hole of Funfetti, homemade Funfetti, but good for them for exploring this. Yeah.
So did you get to ask what you wanted for your birthday, or did your mom just know and she would make that every year? Or every year was it like, what kind of cake do you want?
No. I mean, I always wanted that cake, and that was the cake that was being made. It was like both together. Yeah.
Did you have other birthday traditions in your family?
Yeah. I mean, we'd always have, there would always be like a family party. We had the "You Are Special Today" plate. Do you know that plate?
No.
It's a red plate that says "You Are Special Today" around the outside. I think they made it in the late 70s, early 80s. They make different sizes of it. I have since found one that I can have in my adult life. And you would always get the "You Are Special Today" plate at breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
That's awesome. So wait, now that you have your own, do you use it every day?
No, I only bring it out on when it's my special day, when it's my birthday, when I am actually special that day.
That's sweet. And so when you use it, does somebody usually cook for you on that day, or do you just like make your own toast and put it on the plate?
I just put my eggs on that plate. I don't have a cook. Nobody's cooking for me in that way, but I use it.
Do you guys know about the You Are Special Today plate? Aaron, have you ever heard of this plate?
No, I don't know what this is.
So it's a shiny, vibrant red plate that says, "You are special today" in white around the rim, and it says it twice so that no matter which way the plate is facing, you can still read the message. And the font is what I would describe as a Gaelic font, and there's a little flower design in the center of the plate. So the authentic version of this plate is made by a German ceramic company called Weltersbach, and this company was established in 1832. I couldn't figure out exactly when this plate was established, but on the website, this is what they say about the origin of the You Are Special Today plate. I did not expect it to go this deep. When some of the first immigrants to America arrived from Europe, this is like a Mayflower story.
Wow.
When some of the first immigrants to America arrived from Europe, they often carried with them few personal belongings. It was common to have very little in the way of formal dinnerware, with the exception of maybe one beautiful, brightly colored plate, which soon became a prized possession. This is where the red plate tradition begins. Since this special plate was reserved for special occasions, it became a way to mark life's important milestones. Okay, let's get back to Greta's last meal.
I'm not a great cook. I can cook, but I'm not. It's not the thing that I would say. Nobody is describing me as a great cook. Nobody says, like, the thing you should know about Greta is she's a great cook. That's never happened. That's never been uttered. But I love it as a way of showing love, and I love it as a gift. And particularly my friend Sarah, who always makes me the macaroni and cheese. My birthday's in August. It's August 4th, and it's a to make macaroni and cheese casserole in the middle of August in New York when it's hot. And it says that, you can have a wall unit of air conditioning, but it's going to be really hot in that kitchen. And I would think it's such a generous thing, and that she does that. And she also, one of our other friends had a baby, and she just brought over just so much food that she'd made that it could all just be like warmed up, and it was easy to make. And I think it's a nice way to show love.
We all need a Sarah.
I know. Actually, we all do need a Sarah. Yeah.
This one goes out to you, Sarah.
I know. She knows how I feel.
When I Googled your name and just the word food, all that kept coming up was that you shared a Thanksgiving recipe this year, your dad's stuffing.
Yeah. Oh, God, that's got to be part of my last meal, too. Oh, the last meal's just getting more
carby.
Well, that's my true love, as carb and dairies. He just came to New York, and with my mom, and for Thanksgiving, he made it, and so he made that recipe again. It's the Julia Child recipe. It's got olives in it, which is unusual for stuffing, and people always say, olives, which is great. But it's the best, and it's always so exciting when it starts going, and then I'm always stealing bites from it as it's cooking.
Is it green olives or black?
Black olives.
Oh, that's even more rogue for some reason.
I know. Get ready. Make that recipe. No, it's so good, though.
What else is in it? I saw sausage.
There's sausage. There's sausage. There's some chopped up capers, which I don't like regular capers, but I don't mind it in this. I mean, it's the regular bread and everything else. It's a lot of onions, garlic. I don't know. I mean, I just chop stuff and put them in.
Because you're the best cook in the world.
I'm the best helper and the best eater. My dad is a good cook, actually, and but my mom and I are like the sous chefs, where we prepare everything, on cooking shows where they always have bowls of things just ready. Oh, yeah. We're the people making the bowls of things.
They call it mise en place.
What is that again? Mise en place?
Yeah, that's like when you see cooking shows and there's all the tiny bowls. I think it might mean like everything in its place or something like that, but it's like being super prepped.
I see. Yes, that's sort of how I suppose the Blue Aprons arrive. Everything in its place.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Blue Apron is French for everything in its place.
Yeah, exactly. You just little known fact.
Yes.
Oh, it breaks my heart to have to say this to you, Greta, but we already did a macaroni and cheese episode. Celebrity librarian Nancy Pearl also wanted a gooey, cheesy macaroni and cheese casserole for her last meal. And she makes a recipe from the joy of cooking. So I recommend you listen to that episode if you haven't already. But for this episode, we are going to focus on the classic late 80s, early 90s boxed birthday cake, Funfetti, a white cake chock full of rainbow sprinkles. When we come back, the trials and tribulations of making a homemade Funfetti cake. Apparently, it's not as easy as it seems. I chat with Food Network TV host and one of my favorite food bloggers, Molly Yeh, who is known for her gorgeous cakes and incredible attention to detail. Molly even makes her own sprinkles. And as a former, and I guess if I was still in school, a current teacher's pet, I absolutely love this about her. For her last meal, Greta Gerwig wants her friend Sarah's macaroni and cheese casserole. She also wants ooey gooey butter cake ice cream from Ample Hills Creamery. It's an ice cream shop that started in New York City. Now they have a location in Los Angeles and a couple in Florida. And a couple years ago, I was walking down the street in Brooklyn and I saw an Ample Hills. So we had to go in immediately because I wanted to try Greta's favorite ice cream shop. And it did not disappoint. They do all kinds of crazy flavors, which I love. I got the Munchies, which is a pretzel-infused ice cream. I'll eat anything pretzel flavored. And there were chunks of Ritz crackers, potato chips, pretzels, and crushed M&Ms. But back to Greta's last meal, she also wants her dad's stuffing and Funfetti cake from the box. Pillsbury has been making Funfetti since 1989. It's a white cake with handfuls of cheerful rainbow sprinkles mixed into the batter. And if you're a child of the late 80s and the early 90s, you know that this cake went perfectly with the hypercolor and puffy painted t-shirts that we wore to birthday parties. And as Greta and I discussed earlier, she wants that boxed cake mix that she grew up eating on her birthday. But lots of food bloggers and Instagram bakers have gotten fancy, and they make their own Funfetti cake. And one of those fancy pants belongs to Molly Yeh. Molly is host of the Food Network show Girl Meets Farm. She's the author of the cookbook Molly on the Range. And if you follow her blog, My Name is Yeh, you know that Molly is a very skilled and creative baker. Her cakes are works of art. One of the things that I really like about Molly's work, which is something that I admire in Julia Child as well, is that she is a tireless tester. So when Molly was developing a Funfetti cake, she tested 9 different kinds of sprinkles, just the sprinkles alone, in order to perfect her homemade Funfetti cake.
All of the best birthday parties had a Funfetti cake, and they weren't like layer cakes. They were a sheet cake, usually made from the box. And that was like the gold standard of birthday cakes, I feel, for any child who grew up in like the late 80s or 90s.
I think the generation is key because I was talking to some people my mom's age and they didn't even really know what I was talking about.
Well, yeah, it's, gosh, hold on. Can I do a quick Google search to see, or maybe you know this, like when Funfetti was actually invented?
I know this. It's 1989.
Oh, my birth year. Okay. Yeah. So that makes a whole lot of sense.
Wow, you share a birth year with Funfetti. That makes it even more special.
That's a sign. That's totally a sign.
What is the key to making a successful Funfetti cake at home? Because you had a lot of trial and error.
Yes. So there are a few very important elements about a Funfetti cake that's made from scratch. And the first thing that I want everybody to know that I feel like is kind of a misconception in the world of cake baking is that Funfetti cake is not just sprinkles in a vanilla cake. It requires a specific type of sprinkle because not any type of sprinkle will do. I tried a lot of like naturally colored sprinkles. I tried to use sanding sugars, which the color just melted out while it was baking. And then same thing with nonpareils, those itsy bitsy little balls that are really bright and really crunchy. You know what worked really well was homemade sprinkles. And then the best ones, though, the best and the easiest ones to use are those cylinders that you get from like the ice cream sundae section. And they're artificially colored as well, which is important. Now, the reason that those are important is because those are going to retain their color in the batter, like during the baking process. Those are going to be the brightest. Now, the cake is the other element that's important, obviously, because when you have a bunch of these colors dispersed throughout the cake, you want them to be bright and you want them to pop against a bright white cake. In order to make the brightest white cake possible, it's important to, number one, use only egg whites. And then when you take away the egg yolks, you're going to take away some of that richness. So I combated that by adding oil. So just like a clear, flavorless oil, which added more fat, took the place of the egg yolks, and then also, but it didn't add any color to the cake. And then another thing that does kind of two jobs is using clear imitation vanilla. And number one, that's not going to add that brown color that like a natural vanilla would add. And then at the same time, it's also going to add sort of like that nostalgic flavor that was so unique about the boxed funfetti cake. Oh gosh, I could keep going talking for hours about this. But another thing that's important is that you have an even dispersal of sprinkles. So when you cut into the cake, I had a few test runs where I would cut into it and then the sprinkles would just sink all the way down to the bottom. And that was really annoying. And so that required me to play with the consistency of the cake batter. For this, you're definitely going to want a butter-based cake because it's going to add the butter flavor, but then it's also going to create a thicker batter that's going to suspend those sprinkles in a much more even manner.
So hearing how hard it is to get it exactly right homemade actually makes me have a lot of respect for Pillsbury now, because you just think, oh, it's just this box cake. They really had to figure out how to make this work at home just from a mix so that the sprinkles dispersed evenly and all that.
Yeah, and I once heard this hilarious thing about cake mixes, and I don't know if this was true specifically for funfetti, but when cake mixes came out, apparently all you needed to do was add water. It was too easy for people, so it didn't sell very well. And then when they added a few more steps, like add the oil and the eggs, suddenly it was like people could have more ownership over making this cake, and they didn't feel like it was such an easy way out.
You love sprinkles so much that you incorporated them into your wedding.
Yes. So after we tied the knot and as we were doing our processional, well, when most wedding guests would throw rice at the couple, our friends threw sprinkles at us. We made little individual packets of rainbow sprinkles. And even like a year or two later, you could see random little rainbow sprinkles in the cracks of the ground on the farm.
You always keep quite a sprinkle collection. How many types do you have at any given time?
I guess I could just walk over to my sprinkle collection. So sprinkles are like my favorite souvenir to get whenever I go traveling, because even just like a grocery store generic sprinkle in another country is going to be different. So I'm looking right now. I have some sprinkles from Italy, and they're a lot longer and skinnier, and there's a lot of pink in them. I have some from Israel, and I'm kind of just doing a rough estimate. I don't know, probably like 20 to 25 jars of sprinkles are here, and out of them, probably about 15 are stale and bad, but I just love looking at them. And
yeah, on that note, I told Greta about you and that you make the cake from scratch, and she was both confused and a little bit horrified. She was like, no, it only can come from a box. That is the way it's supposed to be. So I was wondering if the homemade version tastes like the box, or is it too good?
Oh my gosh. First of all, I'm like really happy that you said my name in Greta Gerwig's presence. But, and maybe she'll like one day allow me to make her a homemade funfetti cake. But okay, I do think about this. I think about how, special the boxed cake was to our childhood. And that's why that clear imitation flavor is there, is because it has the flavor. But one thing I like about the funfetti that I make is that it's just slightly denser. So it gives you a little bit more to sink your teeth into. I think the flavor is amped up a little bit more. My number one goal when I'm making cakes is that they've got to be moist. Like a dry cake is my biggest fear aside from death. But so it is moist. It is really flavorful, but I think the texture is a little bit more satisfying than the boxed cake.
I can tell from the pictures on your blog how moist it is and how dense it is, and that It looks so good. Like I got a little drooly in my mouth just looking at the
Yay!
pictures. Yeah. Success. Because, yeah, that's the thing with the box cakes. They are always very fluffy.
So fluffy. And it's almost like you're eating too much air when you're having a bite of it. And this is just a way to get more in your mouth at once.
So you've made your own sprinkles. How do you make sprinkles?
Oh, they're easy. They just take a lot of time and a lot of space. It's essentially royal icing. So you just mix egg whites and powdered sugar and then whatever food colorings you want. And actually, if you want to go full on all natural sprinkles, this is the best way to do it because you can buy like all natural food coloring and then, you color your egg white and sugar mixture and then you put it into a piping bag with the tiniest little piping tip and you pipe out. Well, you could either do little lines. Lines are probably the easiest. And then once they dry after a day, you cut them up. Or if you have like a lot of time on your hands, or if you want to sit in front of the TV and pipe out itsy bitsy little dots, you could do that.
Is it worth making them? Or did you just do it because you like to make the effort to make everything from scratch?
I mean, if you like that type of thing, it's totally fun. It's relatively low maintenance for like what you're getting. I don't know. I don't do that for most of the funfetti cakes that I make. I will use store-bought sprinkles, and I buy sprinkles in bulk these days. But if you really want to go that extra mile, it's fun to be able to say like, oh, I made these sprinkles. Or another thing you could do, I don't know how well this would work in funfetti, but a few years ago I made cayenne sprinkles, just added a little bit of a kick. And you put those over chocolate ice cream, and it's really, really tasty.
Of course, when something old becomes new again, when something vintage becomes modern, we often like to put new twists on it. So I wanted to know what Molly saw for the future of funfetti.
I think the future of funfetti, and don't steal this idea, anybody listening, is like different flavors of sprinkles, incorporating maybe different spices into sprinkles and sort of fusing the line between a sprinkle mix and a seasoning mix, or like a sprinkle mix and a dukkha, and adding nuts and different flavor, cardamom seeds maybe, and like sesame seeds, things like that.
I think that's genius. I could totally see a bagel with, instead of the seeds on top, having sesame seed and poppy seed flavored funfetti, like a savory funfetti on a bagel. That would be so good.
Let's do it.
And so cute. Is there a way to have the base not be the royal icing so it wouldn't be so sweet?
I don't know. Maybe like baking something, like making almost an itsy bitsy cracker. My aunt has a freeze dryer. Maybe we could just freeze dry a bunch of stuff and see how it funfettis.
I like how you said we, because like I'm gonna totally come over and I'm just gonna pop on by.
We're gonna have a funfetti party. Yeah.
Yes, a savory funfetti party. I love that. Molly, thank you so much for chatting with me about funfetti. This was so fun. Fetty.
Thank you.
We are gonna take a quick break, but when we come back, more with Greta Gerwig. She'll tell us about her recent first magical meeting with Justin Timberlake. Greta Gerwig's Golden Globe winning film Lady Bird is set in 2002 Sacramento. So Greta wanted to get a bunch of popular music from that time to play in the film. I loved reading about all of the personal notes that you sent to the musicians of whose music you wanted to use in the film. Dave Matthews,
Alanis Morissette, and Justin Timberlake. And I also wrote a letter to like Ani DeFranco and Steve Sondheim. And Steven Sondheim, I don't call him Steve. I just use that like as if he and I've never met him. But yeah, I mean, I wrote all these letters to really like try to explain to them what the movie was and explain why I wanted to use the music because, they have to give approval, obviously, of letting you use their songs. And it was set in such a specific time and place. And I thought that the music could really help draw the audience into that.
Did you get personalized letters back or did you get like letters from their people?
No, I never got letters back. I just heard, yes, they're fine with it, which is like all you really need.
You just wanted Justin Timberlake's signature, and he would not give that to you.
No, he withheld it, but I got to meet him. So, yeah, I got to meet him a couple weeks ago, and it was very exciting. And he obviously remembered that he gave me permission to use his song, and I said thank you very much in person.
He wasn't coming over to sue you?
No, we were at the same event, and I very dorkly went up to him and said, Mr. Timberlake, thank you. And he said, call me Justin. Oh. Actually, he might not have said that. That might have been just a thing I made up in my head. I think he said, call me Justin. In my mind, he said, call me Justin.
And that was Greta Gerwig's Last Meal. Greta's new film is in theaters now. It's called Little Women. I saw it on Christmas. You should go see it too. Thanks to our guest, Molly Ye. You can watch her show Girl Meets Farm on the Food Network, and make sure and pick up her cookbook. It's called Molly on the Range, and it's one of those rare cases where a cookbook has great recipes, but it also has a sense of humor. This episode was originally produced by Aaron Mason and me, and recently edited and made far less embarrassing by Laura Scott. Our theme music is by Prom Queen. Her album Midnight Veil is now available on vinyl, so you can buy a record or a digital download by searching Prom Queen on Bandcamp. And of course, if you have a quick moment, we would love it if you would leave a review or just a quick 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts or Stitcher. You can follow along on Instagram. I'm Your Last Meal Podcast. I'm Rachel Bell, and this is Your Last Meal. Her new film, Ladybird. That's not how you say it. Greta Gerwig's film, Ladybird. Greta Gerwig's film, Ladybird, is her fantastic film, Ladybird. Wow, it's so weird. It's so weird.
Can you give me that again? You said Ladybird.
I did? I keep wanting to say Ladybird. It's so hard. Greta Gerwig's film, Ladybird. Ah! Ah! Greta Gerwig's film, Ladybird. Gerwig. This is crazy. Gerwig. Gerwig. Yeah. Okay.
Stay for the end of the episode where you can hear cut footage of Rachel's stroke.